Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends on what part of the world it is that you are joining me from. In case you're seeing me for the very first time, my name is Taryn Bennett. I am a leadership growth expert and a learning and development specialist. I help individuals and organizations to discover clarity and become the very best versions of themselves through coaching and training interventions. And this is one of the very, very many interventions it is that we use to achieve our goal. One of our goals is to be able to reach 3 million people without interventions in the next 5 years. We are on our journey to that. So if you're joining us right now, you are one of the 3 million people that we hope to reach in this time. We are presently streaming on multiple platforms. So whatever platform it is that you're joining us from, you are welcome. We're presently on YouTube, we are on LinkedIn, and we're also on Facebook. So wherever it is that you're joining this from, just let us know. Drop a comment right in the box there. Let's know where it is that you're joining us from. And let's know maybe if this is the first time you're joining our sessions and all of that. These are the Impact Leadership Live series in commemoration of the International Women's Day. We are passionate about minority communities, minority societies, and somehow, sadly, the women fall under that category as well. And that's why we're doing whatever it is we can to help women, particularly to accelerate growth in their careers, in their businesses, and in their personal lives. Now, as usual, I have an amazing speaker that will be joining me very, very shortly. She's obviously on the background. I will bring her up very, very shortly. Now, before I came up there, you would have heard some of the videos playing on the background. In case you haven't heard, the Impact Leadership Conference, yes, that conference that has been touching lives all over the world. The next destination is in the city of Birmingham. So we are taking the train to the city of Birmingham. But as usual, they are hybrid events. So even if you're not in and around Birmingham City and you can't make it there in person, if you can't make it, I mean, like I said, the Manchester events that we had last month, we had a lady that came in from Bangladesh to join us in Manchester. So if you can make it to Birmingham that weekend, that's fantastic. We'll be glad to have you. But just in case you can't make it there live, don't worry, we got you covered. We'll bring the conference right to your doorstep wherever you are. And guess what? It is absolutely free. You know, we've been having a lot of conversations with people. People are wondering, these conferences are too valuable. Why did you leave them free of charge? Well, the thing is, we want to bless you. We want to help. We want to empower as many people as possible. And that's why we have left them free. They are not cheap, but they are free. They are free because someone has paid for them. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of your way very, very shortly. Now, for the conference, if you'd like to be a part of the conference, someone should be dropping the link in the comments box for you, wherever it is that you're joining us from, or you can check on our socials or just send us a DM and we'll be glad to share the details with you. All right, so I'm sure you're eager to meet our guest for today. Yes, you had seen the ads earlier, but just in case you're watching this for the very first time, you're meeting us for the first time, and you don't know who the speaker is, I'm going to be playing her video profile just so you have an idea of who it is that is going to be joining us. And then after that, I will pull her up. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, watch the video profile, and I'll see you right after that. Bye-bye for now.
We host Taryn Bennett on this webinar. Taryn is a resilient woman of faith, wife, and mother from Durban, South Africa. With a bachelor's in industrial psychology and ongoing management studies, she brings 16 years of learning and development expertise to her role as head of department for leadership development and professional skills at RCL Foods. Passionate about coaching, facilitating, and promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, Taryn's dedication extends to her ministry in Christ, enriching both her professional and personal pursuits. Bringing an in-depth view on the topic, Purpose Unlocks Leadership Impact, ladies and gentlemen, make welcome Taryn Bennett.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have live with me Ms. Taryn all the way from Durban, South Africa. Thank you very, very much for being a part of this. Yes, we're so excited that you're finally here with us. Now, I know we've just gone through your video profile, so we kind of have an idea of who it is that you are, but we'll always like to hear from what we call the horse as well. So please talk to us. Who exactly is Taryn? Tell us about yourself.
Durban girl, born and raised in Durban, South Africa. I was saying to my husband the other day, only ever lived in Durban. Something needs to change. So born and raised in Durban. I'm a mom of 2 daughters. I have a 14-year-old daughter, Brooklyn, and 12-year-old daughter, Kellen. I'm also a wife. I'm also a daughter, a sister, friend. I am also a learning and development professional. I enjoy coaching, facilitation. I'm also an outdoors person. I love the beach. I love nature. I love hiking. I love visiting new places. And I love fun. Oh gosh, I love fun. I love to have lots of fun. I love to dance. I love karaoke. I also sing in the worship team at our church. So I'm passionate about ministry and my faith, and I think I'm a people's person at heart. I think at the center of everything about me, who I am, what I do, you'll always find people at the center. I'm passionate about people. I love people. I care about people. Also, helping people to grow is something that is very inspiring for me and rewarding at the same time. I love family. So I love food. I love to cook as well. So that's just a little bit about who Taryn is.
Well, that's fantastic, Tara. Thank you very much. And we see you have quite a number of passions there. You love food, you love family, you love to sing. Fantastic. That's very, very good. Now, this month, we're part of what it is that we're doing is doing as much as possible to support women all over the world. Now, just before we go into the main conversation that we're going to have, how do you think that women are being given the rightful position that they deserve, maybe in South Africa where you are or around the world? And if not, what do you think that can be done better to help, give the women the rightful position that they belong?
So sadly, the answer to that is no. I don't believe that women are being given the rightful positions and spaces and places for women to thrive, both personally and professionally. Look, I think in some areas it's being done really well in pockets, but I think if we look at statistics across the globe, women are still finding themselves beneath a glass ceiling that we are still trying to break through. There has been a lot of growth and work done in the DEIB space with transformation, but I think we still have a way to go. And I think it's almost given like a foothold to this extreme feminism, where it's like one or the other. So I think the more women are given rightful place, I think there'll be more of a balance.
That's very, very true, very, very correct. So that's part of why we need to keep having these kinds of conversation so that women are given the rightful place in our society. Thank you very much. So the title of what we're talking about is, Purpose Unlocks Leadership Impact, right? Which is a very interesting topic. So could you share with us, or with the audience, your journey towards understanding the importance of purpose in leadership and how that has impacted your own personal journey in your own personal leadership journey? We'll be interested to know about
that. So I think for me to answer your question, Shay, it starts with actually defining, what is purpose. And it's not many times that we actually take the time out to think about these things. So I actually looked up the definition and I want to share it with everyone. And purpose by definition means the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. Essentially, purpose is the reason. It's the why behind the thing or the person or the place. And if I think about my journey towards understanding the importance of purpose, especially in leadership, it didn't actually start in the corporate world. I'm sure some would expect that, but it didn't. My journey began the day I gave birth to my eldest daughter, Brooklyn, on the 3rd of December in 2009. So for me, it was one of those moments in time that I knew would impact my destiny forever, because something shifted for me intrinsically. Something shifted in my heart and in my mind. And well, for me, it was the birth of my daughter, but for others, and you know, not discriminating, for men, it's something else. For women, for young or old, it could be, you know, any moment in their life that becomes a defining moment where you know from this point onwards that you're never going to be the same again. And it's difficult to put that fully into words. It's a knowing. So as my daughter was born, I believe that purpose was also born in me. And I began to see the world so differently than how I had viewed it before. I started thinking more about, why am I here? What was I made for? You know, I just kept feeling the sense of there's got to be more. There's got to be more there. And there's something important that I've been sent here to do, that I've got to achieve while I'm here on this earth. And so besides being a new mom and obviously terrified because I was so afraid that I was going to mess it up. And I think new moms can relate. I don't know, maybe it was just me, but I was petrified that I was going to mess it all up and that I wasn't going to be good enough for the job. And so having my daughter also just brought this mental shift for me. And I had a desire now to reach my full potential and become what I believe now, that, you know, there's a purpose for me to be born and to be on this earth. And I wanted to become that I was meant to be and become the best version of myself. And while it sounds wonderful and like when you think about it, like now that I've had this thought, it's just going to happen. You know, I'm suddenly going to shift into this new way of being, but that's not the case. It's a journey. And I think with many journeys, there's a starting point, and then you move along and there's various terrains that you have to navigate. And so to answer your question, how it started, that's where my journey started. So what happened from that mental shift is that I realized now that I want to grow and I want to do more and I want to do something meaningful with my life. And I was blessed enough to be able to have the opportunity to further my studies within the company that I was currently employed at. So I completed my bachelor's in industrial psychology while being a new mom, and I think it was then 2 babies, because now my daughters were 18 months apart, and I was a wife, full-time employee, running a home. And I think that's consequently also where my leadership journey began, because I had to start motivating myself. I had to start looking for the guidance that I needed in that season that I was in. I had to start influencing myself towards my goals, and also creating an environment where I am able to flourish and give of my best. And you know, if I think about leadership, that's what leadership is. A leader is someone who motivates others, who offers guidance, support, who casts the vision for others to, and mobilize the people towards a common purpose, a common goal, and a common vision. And so this is what I had to start doing for myself. And I didn't realize in that time and in that moment that leadership was also being birthed in me. And I think as I would move on in my journey, it would become, certain things would become apparent to me. But I think just to summarize, I really, the moment I think I truly started living is when I realized that I'm here for a reason and for a purpose. And it's something that is unique and authentic to me just like my fingerprint, meaning that I'm the only one who can do that. And it's like, you the only one who can be Shay. And maybe the young lady watching this, you're the only one who can be you and do what you were meant to do. And so understanding purpose in this sense is important so that I can connect to who I truly am and why I truly am. And understanding that I'm here for a purpose impacted my leadership journey with a sense of responsibility. I realized that I have a responsibility to effectively to become the best woman, wife, mother, employee that I could be. Because I also wanted to inspire the generation that was following me, which was now Brooklyn. And suddenly I'm seeing the world in generations. And so I knew that there was a responsibility now placed on me. And so in leading myself, I began to motivate, be a guiding light and influence for others without even realizing that. I think the beautiful thing about life is that we each impact one another. And oftentimes we don't realize how many people we impact or how many people are impacted, even just by knowing us, being in proximity with us, or watching our lives unfold. And I've heard stories where people have shared with me, watching me navigate various terrains and do the things that I've done has inspired and motivated them along in their journey. And I had no idea. So I think that's the beautiful thing about life. And yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
That's really amazing. Thank you very much. And you were talking about some of those people it is that you're motivating. Some people are on YouTube right now rooting for you. I think I see Rachel Davis. She says, so proud of you, Taryn. So blessed to be led by such an impactful and purposeful leader every day. I see, well, maybe I think this is your husband. If it's the one, hi, I can see you. I think that's Patrick Bennett. It says, well done, my love, proud of you. Thank you very much. So you have a lot of people that are rooting for you right now. Thank you. So now in course of what you were talking about there, you mentioned that understanding one's purpose is essential for making an authentic impact, right? So how can individuals, because some people might be wondering, for you had a light bulb moment. How can individuals, identify this purpose, especially in the context of leadership? What advice, because someone might be listening to, okay, she's talked about purpose. How do I identify this purpose, especially within the context of leadership? What would you be saying to such a person?
Yeah, and look, it's different for everyone, but I can share a little bit about what I think and what's true for me. Sometimes we look at purpose and these as life shifting, the ground has to shake, there has to be lightning and thunder, and wow, I've discovered my purpose. I really don't believe that it works that way, because for me, it wasn't one moment. It was a series of little things. And often we don't pay attention to the little things. But what I can help with is, my personal belief is that understanding or unlocking or even just engaging with one's purpose is a relationship that's required between ourselves and our Creator. I believe that, so I know most psychological thought leaders aligned to the Big Bang and evolution. I have a different or personal belief. I believe we were created, and we were created in the image of God. And to understand why we're here, who better to ask than the one who made you? For example, I know people love iPhones. If you have a question about iPhone, you're not going to go to I don't know, Nokia, for example. You're going to go into iPhone, and iPhone will tell you all about the purpose of that phone. So I think it starts with relationship and understanding that we have a Creator. And then secondly, I also think that if we just take the time to be still and to reflect. So here's where self-reflection comes into play. And self-reflection for me is powerful in the sense of, while we're so busy going and doing, I think about myself. I wear so many hats. It's the mother hat, the wife hat, the team leader hat, this hat, and we're always going, and we don't often take the time to pause and to think about what we're doing. I remember being in a workshop with my pastor, Pastor Esther, and Pastor Esther Johns, and she's one of my mentors. And she asked a simple question. What do you like? Give me 5 things that you like. And I'm able to answer that question. And that got me thinking, how many of us take the time to sit down and ask ourselves a few questions? What do I enjoy? What am I good at? What makes me come alive? What makes me, what do I dream of? What do I think, What do I see myself as? We often I think fear has been instilled in so many ways. We become afraid to dream, afraid of what's possible. And so I think it's important to take a moment, pause, self-reflect, ask yourself those questions, because the more time you spend with yourself, the more time you will arrive at what's truly at your core. And then in a more practical sense, because I'm also quite a pragmatist, it's about becoming self-aware. Who am I? What do I enjoy? What do I gravitate towards naturally? What do I do that's impactful for others, yet it requires minimum effort from me? It doesn't feel forced or put on, and I believe these are the telltale signs of purpose, but it just takes us slowing down a little bit to notice. And as a leader, self-reflection is so extremely important. To become a leader is to know thyself, or to become an effective leader is to know thyself. You can't lead others unless you can effectively lead yourself. And leading yourself begins with knowing yourself. So self-awareness is key as one of the fundamental building blocks of leadership development. And what it does, it nurtures authenticity. Because when you know who you are, when you know why you are, it frees you up from, I think, wearing the mask, or we get caught up in playing a role, or trying to be someone that we're not, to fit a narrative or an expectation. And I think nurturing your authenticity, who are you at your core? What's important to you? What makes you come alive? What do you believe in? What are your values? What are your principles? I think all of these things, when we reflect on them, you'll start to see the telltale signs of purpose. And then it's just about packaging them in suitcase words. And this is all part of the journey of self-discovery. So I actually believe that leadership and purpose go hand in hand, because you can't achieve one without the other. I hope that is helpful.
Fantastic. I mean, you've talked about so many valuable things there. I'll just try and recap a few of those things for those that are probably just joining us as well. You've talked about that you don't have any business in leadership if you cannot lead yourself. So leading others starts with self-leadership, and you cannot lead someone you don't know. So if you want to lead yourself, you need to know yourself. And part of knowing yourself is understanding your purpose and all of that. And you talked about how that brings authenticity as well. Those are very, very valuable things that you've talked about, in addition to several other things that you've shared. And purpose is something that I am also very passionate about. And like I say to people, for example, I'm using a camera right now. The purpose of the camera, before, I define purpose as the original intention of a thing in the mind of the creator of the thing. So the camera that I'm using right now, someone thought about, I need to create something that can capture video and audio, and then went ahead to create a camera. So what that means is, before you were created, someone or something, whatever it is that you believe in, thought about, I need something to do this, but nobody can actually do that right now. I need to create a Taryn, I need to create a Shay to go and do that thing for me. So if you're trying to find out what that thing is, all you need to do is go back to who that person is. Who was the person that created you, and find out, okay, what was in your mind when you put me here, and that will help you a lot to discover that. So in your opinion, please talk to us. What are some of the practical strategies? Because we've talked about how to identify the purpose, and you've talked about a number of things. Sometimes it's not it's still a voice, it's not a major event. It's just probably, sometimes you just need to be able to perceive certain things around you. So just in case you've gotten through the level that you now understand what your purpose is, so how can you give us some practical strategies or approaches that leaders or anybody can use? I believe everybody is a leader, right? Because sometimes I have that conversation with people and they feel, oh, I'm not a leader, this conversation is not for me. Leadership is simply influence. If you can influence anybody, even if it's yourself, you can influence. You are leading yourself, so you are a leader. So practical strategies or approaches that we can use to nurture and unlock this potential in us, especially in the space of leadership.
Yes, some strategies, and I like to be practical, and I like to keep things simple. So first thing, write it down. I would have like a one-liner. If this is, or even if this is the vision that you have for your life, what do you see for your life? And here's where I want to encourage people to not be afraid to dream. Because a lot of the time when you ask people, what is the vision for your life? And I was just having this conversation earlier on with a few of my team members, is that we often look at our surrounding circumstances and then we try to dream on that level. But I think with vision and with dream, take it to any level that it needs to be, because where you come from and what's happening now doesn't determine where you're going. So I think write the vision down and stick it up somewhere where you're going to look at it every day. So for example, I have a few pages stuck up in my cupboard. So every day when I open my cupboard, I look at these words and I look at these things, and somehow your mind starts to gear towards those things. When you see it every day, you read it out every day, you speak it to yourself. That in itself has power and impact. Sometimes hearing the words of your own identity or purpose or vision for your life coming out of your own mouth. And I think with that, it's very important what we say about ourselves to ourselves. And I think that's the second thing, is the self-talk. Pay attention to what you're saying about yourself to yourself. Because remember, this journey starts with self. So it's write the vision, stick it up where you can see it every day, engage it, look at it, read it, say it. Even if you don't really believe it right now, that's okay. If it scares the socks off of you, that's okay. But stick it up, put it up there, look at it every day, read it, and then start to tell yourself these things. You will start to believe yourself. And I think the third thing for me, Che, without setting goals, a vision just becomes a pretty picture on the wall. So look at what's achievable for me right now in relation to the bigger picture, and break it down into smaller, because when we look at something that's so big, it can be so overwhelming and it can paralyze you. It's like, whoa, this is too big. I can't touch this, I can't approach this, and then we just leave it alone. So break it down. What can I do towards that right now? And set a goal for yourself. Set a timeline for yourself. This is something that my mentor, Dr. Sean Johns, is actually working with me on, where we set goals. Even as a mother, I have a business plan as a mother. I have a business plan as a wife. I have a business plan as a professional. I have a business plan to how to manage my life. So if we run businesses and services and with plans in place, why not a plan for our life? Treat your life as a business. And have planning sessions and execute them, and then evaluate your return on investment. So I think those are just a few key things. It's about writing it down, putting it up where you can see it, engage your vision, watch the self-talk, start to tell yourself who you are, and then also have a plan, set goals, set smart, achievable goals that are measurable, so that you can revisit them and ask yourself, okay, this is what I set out to do at that time. Have I achieved it? And even if you haven't, no shame, no guilt. Look at why haven't I achieved it, and address those things, and then set the goal again and go after it again. I think the aim is to just never give up.
I mean, these are some very, very valuable tips it is that you dropped in for us. Very valuable nuggets. So you've talked about how you need to write down the vision, have it in places where you can view from time to time. There's something that it does to you, it does to your mind. Fantastic. You also talked about not being afraid to dream. You know, I say to people that if your dream is not big enough that it scares you, go back to sleep and get a bigger dream, because your dream should be so big that even you are scared that how can I achieve this? That's the kind of dream that you should have. So like you said, don't be afraid to dream. One of the only nations where it is that you don't pay for is imagination. Just go ahead and imagine. And the interesting thing is, your mind does not know the difference between an imagination and reality. So just go ahead and dream big. Imagine it. Your mind will be full to think it's true, and you just begin to walk in that. You also talked about self-talk, the power of self-talk, which is very, very key. And then you talked about setting goals and all of that, and setting goals in every aspect of your life. So you talked about, you set goals, you treat your life as a business. So if your life as a mother, you treat it as a business. Your life as a wife, treat it as a business. Your life, in all aspects, treat your life as a business. Set goals and continue to review from time to time to see how things are working. Now, we're having so much fun on this conversation right now. As we navigate through the unique challenges of this era, right? Very, very different eras. What are some of the qualities that you believe are crucial for leaders in this particular era it is that we are? What qualities should leaders possess to be able to become effective? Because we've talked about effective leaders that would have impact, right? What are some of these qualities that you think that we should have?
The first one, I think, is definitely courage. For the season we find ourselves in, I think as humanity, we're facing things we've never seen before. That leaders have had to really dig deep. We've come out of COVID and lockdown, totally underestimating the impact of COVID lockdown and the impact and the effect of loss and trauma on human beings and leaders, especially with the uncertainty that's all around us, and having to be an anchor to those around you when you yourself don't actually know, or feeling like you don't have it together, but because people are looking to you, you kind of have to pull it together to still stand strong. So I think courage is definitely one of the key qualities that leaders by default actually are having to pull on. I think the second one is service. For me, leadership is about serving the needs of those around you. And I think without service and making a difference and giving yourself to a cause, leadership becomes very egocentric. I think it needs to be a human-centric approach to leadership, because as a leader, you need to understand also, and it's also empathy. You need to understand where people are at, where your people are at, the people that you are called to lead. Where are they? Where do they find themselves, and how do I reach them? And I think there's a big difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is, where I'm going to now almost acquiesce into where you are. For example, if I'm standing on a riverbank and someone that I'm leading is in the water, and just imagine that it's a rapid stream. So it's rapids, and the rapids are pulling them. Sympathy is me jumping in to try and save them, where we'll both be swept away by the rapids. But empathy is me remaining grounded on the bank while a line to pull you up to where I am. And I think that's the key thing with empathy, because a lot of the time leaders shy away from empathy because it's almost seen as if I'm too empathetic, then people are not going to perform. They're not going to do what they need to do. Then I always have to understand, and we're going to, it's not results driven. And I'm quite a results driven person. So I want to see the results as much as I want to have empathy, but we need to get the job done. So I think just understanding the difference between sympathy and empathy is very key for leaders. And I think the fourth one for me is love. I know it's a strange one for corporate setting, but I'll tell you why. I think and Craig Mandel says this. He's my coach, and he says the greatest gift of leadership is love. So, and I asked him, what do we mean by that? And he says, you can't lead people that you don't love, because love gives, and love stands the test of time, and love is truthful. It doesn't pretend, and that again speaks to authenticity. So I think I would end it off with authenticity. Besides being results driven, discipline driven, I think those are some of the key, and also being adaptable. You can't be rigid as a leader in this day and age. You have to be adaptable and flexible. Supportive also, yeah. Fantastic. I think we could go on, but there's a lot that needs to be
you've talked about some very, very valuable tips there. You've talked about courage. You need to be courageous as a leader in this time. You've talked about service. A lot of people think leadership is all about me, but leadership is about the people that you're leading. So the ability to want to serve the people that you're leading is very, very key. You've also mentioned empathy, right? Which is also a very key aspect of leadership. You've talked about love as well, and you also differentiated the difference between sympathy and empathy for us. Thank you very much. And then you talked about love as well. You also talked about authenticity. As a leader, people need to see that level of authenticity in what it is that you are doing. Now, we are enjoying this conversation. We wish we could take it on and on and on, but we know we need to gradually start bringing it home. Just want to say, for anybody that is watching, I know a lot of people are joining on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Let me just pick a few comments from YouTube right now. I see Quintana. Quintana says, I love this dreamer. God has absolutely more for her than even she can dream. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Quintana. That's from YouTube. If you have any questions for Taryn, just drop them in the comments. I'm taking a look at all of them now. Just drop them there and we'll try and take the questions within the time it is that we have. Now, we know that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are areas that you are very, very passionate about, and that's one thing that we have in common. I'm very, very passionate about that, and that's why a lot of what we do is towards the minority communities, people that usually don't get a voice at the table. So how do these principles intersect with purpose-driven leadership, right? Particularly in fostering a culture of innovation and collaboration. Can you speak to us about that?
Definitely a big one for me. And I'll start with why it's big for me. So I'm passionate about diversity because I believe in honoring our differences. If we all looked the same, spoke the same, dressed the same, life would be pretty boring, and we can't be the same. So I think there's a great deal of value in being different, thinking differently, diverse ways of thinking. Also, the way that we've been raised and grown up, our backgrounds, the diversity that lives there. And it all contributes to a great big whole of what's possible when you pay attention to, rather than suppress differences or be against differences, or where we celebrate differences and respect each other's differences. And I think coming from a minority background as a colored female, what's termed in South Africa, colored female according to our demographic, I'm in the least minority in terms, well, most places that I've worked, I've been in the least minority. I don't always see many of me around. And that does impact how you show up, because you feel like you're on the back foot. You feel like you've got to try harder. You feel like you've got to work twice as hard. Or I became quite aggressive in how I showed up in my leadership style, because I wanted to be seen, and because I felt unseen and I felt unheard. And so that also shapes how you show up. And it serves you for a while, but at some point you're going to have to sit with the reflection again and say, is this where I actually want to go? So I think how these 4 elements, and I was thinking also about belonging, and Brené Brown in her book Braving the Wilderness, she said that you first have to belong to yourself before you can create environments of belonging. You first have to belong to yourself. And I pondered on that. How do I belong to myself? And belonging to yourself is trusting yourself and honoring yourself in that. I trust my thinking, I trust my abilities, I trust what I'm able to do, and I don't shame myself. And that's where true belonging. And sometimes it takes being vulnerable with others and with yourself to achieve those places. And I know vulnerability, as much as it unlocks the next level, it's not a place that most leaders want to go, because leadership also gets lonely. They say the higher you go, the less people are there. And so vulnerability becomes something that's more talked about than engaged in. Because we as human beings, we prone to self-preservation. Your brain is always going to try and protect you. And when you perceive threats, you're always going to survival mode. So vulnerability becomes what's needed, but not always what's accessed. And I think the more we speak about the impacts and the benefits and what diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging can unlock within us, and that it's not something that we need to be afraid of. It's not something where we're taking this away from one group and giving it to another group and creating a further type of division, but where we all come and sit around the table and celebrate our differences, where we create psychologically safe spaces where people can be vulnerable, where we can foster environments of trust. And then people start to really show up as who they really are and who they really mean to be. And that's where innovation comes. Because you functioning in fear or functioning in insecurity or functioning with a mask on is not the true, authentic you. And that's where innovation sits. It sits in smack in the center of authenticity. So those are my thoughts on it. And I've witnessed teams that, are diverse, and there's equity, and they have an inclusive culture, and there's belonging. What beautiful work comes from those teams.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. So as we begin to wrap this up, in the beginning you talked about all the things that you were into. You're a wife, you're a mother, you're a chorister in the choir, you're different things all together, right? Now, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, especially women, is how to be able to balance all of the many hats that they wear. In your own experience, what has worked for you, and what advice could you give to people that are watching right now and maybe struggling to juggle all of this together as well?
Yes, it's definitely a balancing act. I won't lie and say I've got it pegged down. I'm on the journey. So there are times where things do suffer for me to be able to do everything that I need to do. My mental health suffered last year. I found myself a complete burnout. I was actually hospitalized for 2 weeks, and that was a pivotal shifting moment for me, where I also had to sit with, why am I trying to do everything and be everything to everyone at the same time? So I think starting with your why, again, back to purpose. And I had to be honest with myself and say, there's certain things that I'm taking on or that I'm doing is because fundamentally at my core, there's a limiting belief that I had that I was not good enough. And so I took on all of these roles, tasks, activities, trying to just do everything and be everything until I actually burned myself out, because I was trying to prove not only to myself, but to others that I deserve my place. I've earned my spot. I am good enough. But if I was really honest with myself, Shay, if I believed that, I wouldn't be doing everything that I was doing to try and prove that. So I started with why. And when you start with that, you start to look at what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing or you don't need to be doing. And you can start to declutter and get some things off your plate. And I started to declutter. So I think the key thing is, it's again, spending time with yourself, reflecting. Have a journal. Write these questions down and answer yourself. You'd be amazed what comes out of you when you spend some time with you. And start to declutter, because you can't do it all. And with the demands, for me, I have certain glass ball values that I'm not willing to compromise on. And the one, because this is also what sustains me, is my faith, and my faith in God, and quiet time in the morning, to bring it back to a practical sense. I believe starting your day off with quiet time, whether for prayer, meditation, or just breathing and connecting to yourself, connecting to your breath, it brings clarity and it brings focus for the day. You find that you're more on top of your day than your day on top of you. The second thing is look after your body. Exercise, go for a walk, eat well, try and avoid too much sugar and processed foods and refined carbs, because those take you up very quickly and then they drop you very, very fast. And then it's just also about nourishing your soul, and taking time out for yourself as Taryn, not anybody's anything, not Patrick's wife or Brooklyn and Kellen's mother or RCL Foods employee, but as Taryn, and do what Taryn enjoys. Fill my cup, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think just every day I try to have a top 5. What are my top 5 for today that I'm going to focus on? And then my brain gives me great dopamine rewards when I tick off my list, because I love lists and I love ticking things off. So I'm a very happy girl once I've done my top 5 and I've ticked off for the day. And even if I haven't, it's carry over, but every day have a top 5 and just do what you can. Yeah, and have balance in that sense.
Amazing. So there you go. She's giving us very valuable tips on how to ensure that despite so many things that you have to do, you can actually make some sense out of it. Or you mentioned burnout there. Incidentally, the last person I had that on the show as well, she also mentioned burnout, and that's the reason why late last year I actually got someone that spoke to us about burnout. Her name is Avery Tasha. So if you're listening right now, we had a very, very wonderful conversation about burnout. It's actually on our YouTube page as well. Just search out for that, Avery Tasha on burnout. You would get that. And incidentally, he also talked about decluttering, right? There's a radio program that I do here. I do a radio show in Dublin here every week, and the beginning of this month I did one of the topics I looked at was decluttering, because we keep talking about spring cleaning and all of that. Okay, so there are certain times you need to declutter. So declutter your physical space, declutter your mental space, declutter your relationships. Some of those relationships need to go. They are not as productive as they should be. And if you want to listen to any of those as well, all of them are on my podcast. You can look out for that. Someone should probably drop the link for you, or just DM and you can get access to all our podcasts and listen to all of those. All right, Taryn, like I said, we wish we could continue this conversation for forever, but we need to bring this home. So if anybody wanted to, connect with you, find out more about what you do, or maybe even secure your services in one way or the other, what's the best place for them to go to do that?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Taryn Bennett on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. I have a Facebook, but it's more, connect with me on Facebook as Taryn Bennett. I also do have Instagram, and what's my Insta handle? I forgot. I'll tell you now, I'm not always there. I think it's also Taryn Bennett on Instagram. So yes, I'm available on those pages and happy to connect as well.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Now, on behalf of myself and everybody that has tuned in on this show today, we would like to appreciate you taking time out of your very, very busy and tight schedule. I know some of the challenges that you've had in the past couple of days, but despite that, you're still here to do this today. So we would like to thank you very, very much for pouring out of yourself to us today. And for everybody that is joining us as well, most especially Mr. Bill, a blessing to us. Thank you so very much. And like I mentioned earlier as well, in case you haven't heard, the next edition of the Impact Leadership Conference is holding in just about 2 weeks' time on the 13th of April. Now, it's holding in the city of Birmingham. If you're in and around Birmingham City, you can actually come and join us. We'll be glad to have you. But just in case you can't make it to Birmingham City, that's fine. We are bringing the conference right to your doorstep. Now, it is absolutely free. You don't need to pay anything for it. It is not cheap, but it is free. All you need to do is just secure your registration, and you will be a part of that. I can see a lot of thank yous on YouTube. I see Jodine Stoffels as well. It says, well done, awesome session. Thank you very, very much. For anybody that is joining us now, thank you for taking our time in the middle of your day, depends on what part of it is of the world that you are, to join us. We really, really appreciate that. We don't take it for granted. The journey continues. All right, tomorrow we are bringing you another special guest, right? We are not done until we are over, right? This whole month is all about empowering our women as much as possible. So look out on our socials. You get to get information about this. Tomorrow's session is starting by 6 p.m. UK time. So just whatever time zone that is where you are. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been awesome having you with us today. And like I always say, remember, there is greatness on your inside and the world is waiting for you to birth and manifest your greatness. Go out there and be profitable. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.